In 2006, we erased it. Not slowly, not reluctantly. We gathered in a conference room in Prague, took a vote, and removed an entire world from the solar system. We called it a dwarf, a relic, a piece of frozen debris wandering too far from the light. For 76 years, it had been a planet. Then, in a single afternoon, it wasn't. But no one asked what Pluto actually was. No one had been close enough to know. And what we found when we finally looked, truly looked, was something we were not prepared for. We thought we would find a quiet, frozen corpse. Instead, we found a world that was boiling. A world with mountains made of glass, skies that bled red, and a beating heart filled with poison. We threw it away before we understood what it was. This is what we missed. To understand Pluto, you have to feel the distance first. Imagine a spacecraft accelerating to 50,000 miles per hour, faster than any bullet ever fired, and holding that speed for 9 years without stopping. That is how long New Horizons traveled before it reached Pluto. 9 years of silence, 9 years of black. By the time you arrive, the sun is not a star anymore. It is a bright point, one bright point among thousands. The light reaching Pluto's surface is hundreds of times dimmer than a cloudy afternoon on Earth. If you stood on Pluto at noon, the sky above you would not be blue. It would be black, a permanent frozen twilight with no warmth, no wind, no sound. We sent a machine to the loneliest place in the solar system, and the loneliest place sent something back. In the summer of 2015, New Horizons finally pierced the veil, and there, stretched across Pluto's equator, was something no one expected. A heart. A perfect, pale, enormous heart shape, almost 1,000 miles wide, shining white against the dark surface. The media called it beautiful, a cosmic love letter. Scientists looked at the same image and felt something else entirely. That heart is not a symbol. It is a scar. A colossal impact basin gouged into Pluto's surface billions of years ago and filled, over time, with one of the most hostile substances in the solar system: solid nitrogen, methane, and carbon monoxide, compressed into a glacier so dense it should not move. But it does. Deep beneath the surface, Pluto's core still holds a trace of radioactive heat, the dying ember of a world that should, by every rule, be frozen solid. That faint warmth rises, and when it reaches the bottom of the nitrogen glacier, it causes the frozen poison to slowly boil. Not into gas, into itself. A slow, churning convection cycle, turning like a pot of thick, freezing soup. The heart is not decorative. It is alive. It moves. It erases. Any asteroid that strikes Sputnik Planitia is slowly pulled under and consumed. The surface stays pristine. The basin devours everything it touches. Subscribe to Deep Horizon Space and hit the notification bell so you never miss a mission. The heart is just the beginning. What lives at its edges is stranger still. On the shores of Sputnik Planitia, if you could stand there, you would see mountains. Real mountains. Peaks rising 10,000 feet into a black sky. On Earth, mountains are made of rock. On Pluto, rock is irrelevant. At minus 390 degrees Fahrenheit, ordinary water ice becomes as hard as structural steel. Those peaks are not stone. They are solid water, compressed so tight it behaves like metal, jagged, razor-edged, and massive. And because water ice is less dense than the frozen nitrogen around it, those mountains do not sit on the ground. They float. They break off from the edges of the basin and drift, slowly, across the white, toxic sea. mountain ranges the size of the Alps, moving in total silence across a plain of churning poison. And if you look at the peaks of those floating mountains, you will notice something that should not be possible this far from the sun. The snow is red. When the faint ultraviolet light from the distant sun strikes the methane frost on Pluto's surface, it triggers a chemical reaction. It creates complex organic compounds called tholins, dark reddish molecules that rain slowly from the sky and coat everything they touch. A world of floating glass mountains, stained dark red, drifting in silence through a sea of frozen poison. For decades, scientists assumed Pluto was frozen solid all the way through. A dead rock, a world without interior. Then the physics stopped making sense. The weight of the nitrogen glacier, 1,000 miles wide and kilometers deep, should have caused Pluto to slowly roll over millions of years ago, rebalancing its mass toward the equator. It didn't. Pluto hasn't rolled. The heart sits exactly where it should not be able to sit, unless something heavy was acting as a counterweight from below. The only explanation that fits the data: beneath Pluto's frozen crust, there is a liquid ocean. Not ice, not glacier. Liquid water, kept from freezing by the pressure of the crust above and the last trace of heat from below. A dark, pressurized ocean that has never seen light, that has never been touched by anything. And wherever there is liquid water, the question becomes unavoidable. Could something be alive in there? We don't know. We have no way to know. New Horizons flew past Pluto in a matter of hours and will never return. Whatever is in that ocean, if anything, is sealed beneath miles of ice at the edge of the solar system, in a darkness so complete that even the concept of day does not exist there. We threw away a world that might not be empty. As New Horizons accelerated away from Pluto and out into the deeper Kuiper belt, it turned its camera back one final time. It caught Pluto eclipsing the sun. And in that image, around the silhouette of a world we had dismissed, was a ring of light, a thin, delicate, glowing ring of blue. Pluto has a blue sky, not the deep blue of Earth's oceans reflected upward, a different blue, the blue of nitrogen and methane, of a thin, freezing atmosphere catching the last light of a sun that is barely a point. A breathtaking, accidental beauty, seen once by a machine from millions of miles away. We saw it, then we left. But Pluto does not face this alone. Locked into a permanent gravitational bond with Pluto is its largest moon, Charon, and the relationship between them is unlike anything else in the solar system. Charon is so massive relative to Pluto that they do not orbit each other the way a planet and moon normally would. They orbit an empty point in space between them, a gravitational fulcrum, a shared axis in the void. They are tidally locked. If you stand on one hemisphere of Pluto, Charon is always there, massive, unmoving, permanent in the sky. It never rises, it never sets, it simply watches. Walk to the other side of Pluto, and you will never see it at all. Charon itself carries a wound. Its north pole is stained with a massive dark red patch, gas that escaped from Pluto's own atmosphere, drifted through space and froze onto its moon's surface. They share an atmosphere. They bleed into each other. Two exiles, holding on to one another in the dark, and spinning wildly around both of them, four small chaotic moons, Nix, Hydra, Kerberos, Styx, tumbling unpredictably, end over end, like the shattered remnants of a collision no one witnessed. We took away its title. We called it a dwarf. We drew a new map and left it off. Pluto doesn't care. It still governs the Kuiper belt, It still moves its floating mountains across a sea of toxic nitrogen. It still holds an ocean in the dark. It still bleeds red from its sky and shares its atmosphere with a moon it will never let go of. It will be doing all of this long after our sun burns out. We didn't throw away a dead rock. We threw away one of the most geologically alive, chemically hostile, and structurally strange objects in the solar system. And somewhere beneath its crust, in a lightless ocean that has existed for 4 billion years, the question we cannot answer is still open. But if you think Pluto is the strangest thing waiting at the edge of this solar system, you haven't met what lives further in. Beyond the Kuiper Belt, closer to the sun, a world where the winds reach 2,000 kilometers per hour, where the rain is made of solid diamonds, and where the storms have been running without interruption for longer than life has existed on Earth. That is where we go next.